Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all of the news of the past week of nerdy movies. I'm not gonna lie to you, I am kind of exhausted right now, but the show must go on. Yeah, the show must go on. However that Queen song goes. Yeah, let's just get into it. So for our first story, Avatar, The Way of Water, is officially the highest grossing film of 2022. The previous one was Top Gun Maverick with $1.4 billion, but Avatar, The Way of Water has now made 1.7, and that is pretty crazy. I mean, yeah, I think it's probably gonna cross that $2 billion mark, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. Now I never thought this movie was gonna flop. I mean, there's just no way, right? Just with the first one being the highest grossing film of all time, but I was kind of thinking it has been like 13 years. It'll probably set somewhere in like the $1.5 billion mark to like the $1.7 billion mark, but with it already getting at 1.7, I think it's going to cross the 2 billion. And yep, just reiterating the case that one should never bet against James Cameron. There's been a lot of people being like, oh, nobody's going to care about Avatar. Avatar has been way too long since the last one. Nobody's going to watch it. Clearly, people are going to watch it. So, yep, there we go. Next story. Batgirl. We will never see this movie, probably, but Leslie Grace, the actress that played her, did show off what looks like was going to be her final costume. So this is via her Instagram, and I think it looks fine. You know, it looks like, you know, like a generic Batman costume, kind of. I actually, me personally, I still contend that the original one that they showed off is good. Like, I actually really like this costume. I like the more realistic sort of costumes. Like, I really like the ones that look more homemade. For example, like my favorite superhero, like live action superhero costume of all time is the black Daredevil suit from season 1 of the Netflix show. Like, I just think his whole thing with the just black khakis with just a long sleeve shirt and like the rope attached to his hands. I just feel like that's really badass. And I love that this costume has, you know, it looks like something that Barbara Gordon could actually make, where it's just like a leather jacket and pants, and like it looks like she just kind of like, you know, like glued on like a bat symbol on it. I think it looks cool. But obviously at some point Michael Keaton's Batman was probably gonna make this suit for her, and yeah, but alas, we are never going to we're never going to be able to see the movie now. So speaking of that, there also was an image of like the final fight of the movie that leaked, along with a description of the scene. So I would say spoiler alert, but again, we're never gonna see this movie, or we're most likely never gonna see this movie. So I will say vague spoiler alert. Okay. So yeah, here's the image, and it's of Leslie Grace. Kind of, it looks like she has Brendan Fraser's Firefly and like a bit of a head choke here. And then I'll be okay. So I don't know who this Twitter account is, but they seem to have access to this image. So we're gonna read her description here, or their description. I don't know what gender they are, whatever, who cares. Before the final fight, Batgirl rushes back to the apartment because she finds out Firefly is there to kill Gordon for good, and she makes it just in time. The fight is brutal. Firefly throws her into walls and into the ground while she grapples him and tries to choke him out. She pulls his mask off to see his face, which is how she finds out he was on the fire department team. Batgirl does not kill him, by the way. So yeah, that looks like there was going to be a pretty brutal final confrontation between Batgirl and Firefly. I don't know. When it comes to this movie, I still remain of the opinion that it's really hard for me to really have a super strong opinion about whether or not it should have been canceled or not, because I didn't see the movie. I don't know if it's good or not. And if it is actually like terrible, then I respect the decision to cancel it. If it was actually good and they only canceled it because of like whatever, there was a they were able to get a tax return or whatever, then yeah, that's pretty messed up. But either way, we'll never know. Okay, next up, a pretty interesting thing here. So they're doing this Riddler Year One comic book, that is like it is set in the continuity of the Matt Reeves Batman universe, and in issue 2, it looks like one of the characters has a train ticket to Metropolis, which basically confirms that Metropolis exists within the Matt Reeves Batman universe, and it also has the Superman colors, which is obviously a bit of an Easter egg. Now, to be clear, this is not confirming that Superman exists in the Matt Reeves Batman universe. It's only confirming that Metropolis exists. I don't think we're ever gonna see explicit references to other characters in the Matt Reeves Batman universe, just because I think it seems like how James Gunn is going to want to handle all of this is that he is going to have his main DC universe, and then other things that aren't in that DC universe, I think they're just going to be very much like standalone things. And I don't know that he would let Matt Reeves have like a competing universe with his own universe, right? With a Superman in that universe as well. But I will say, and this actually did remind me of this one set photo from the Matt Reeves Batman universe of like a Halloween party where you saw extras dressed up as Superman and Wonder Woman. Now, obviously, the scene never made it into the final cut of the movie, but there was at some point, plans to like tease the existence of other characters, whether that be like there actually is a Superman somewhere in the Matt Reeves Batman universe, Superman and a Wonder Woman. This could also mean that at some point there was a plan to like just have like the characters of Superman exist sort of maybe as comic book characters in the Matt Reeves Batman universe. This was always confusing, but either way, it never made it into the final cut of the movie. So as of right now, we really only have little hints and Easter eggs, but nothing definitive. Okay, next movie. It looks like Regal owner Cineworld will not break up group, denies talks with AMC. Regal owner Cineworld, the world's second largest movie theater operator, has denied reports that it has been in talks with AMC, the world's largest movie theater group, regarding the sale of its assets. Cineworld added that it intends to sell the group in its entirety rather than break up. I think this is for the best, honestly. I don't know, like AMC, I feel like if they were to own Regal and, and especially if they were to maybe, I don't know if they're able to buy Cineworld in its entirety, but yeah, I don't want AMC necessarily to have that much control over the market. I think you could get into like weird monopoly territory there. I mean, obviously not an actual monopoly, but yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where you want competition in pretty much every industry, really. And yeah, so at the end of the day, I'm kind of happy that AMC isn't and buying up Regal. All right, next up, we got some casting for Agatha Coven of Chaos. Looks like Deborah Jo Rupp is going to be here. So, reading from the article here. That 70s show and that 90s show star Deborah Jo Rupp has been added to Agatha Coven of Chaos, Disney Plus / Marvel WandaVision spinoff series headlined by Catherine Hahn. Sources tell Deadline. So, and then reading this next paragraph here, sort of the end of it. Emma Caulfield Ford also is said to be reprising her character of Dottie from WandaVision. So this is interesting because it kind of makes me wonder if Agatha Coven of Chaos is going to be a more direct sequel to WandaVision than I initially expected. I don't know. I never really thought of it that way for whatever reason. I mean, obviously it's a spin-off of the show with Agatha, but like with Deborah Jo Rupp along with the actress that plays Dottie, like, are those characters going to have significant roles? So, like, are we going to stick around in Westview? Are those characters, for some reason, going to follow Agatha around on her adventures? Like, are they going to be a part of her Coven of Chaos? I don't know. But either way, I mean, I obviously really love this actress, so I'm excited to see her again. All right, so next up, we have Dave Bautista just kind of confirming that this is the end of the road for his time playing Drax. So we'll read this quote from here. "I'm so grateful for Drax. I love him," the actor said. "But there's a relief that it's over. It wasn't all pleasant. It was hard playing that role. The makeup process was beating me down, and I just don't know if I want Drax to be my legacy. It's a silly performance, and I want to do more dramatic stuff." Now, some people took umbrage with that, with him calling Drax a silly performance. I think that's probably not something that you want to say. Like, you know, granted, I haven't seen him in Blade Runner 2049 because I haven't seen that movie, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I do not remember his role in Dune, but like, and I also didn't see Spectre, but like, I just saw Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, and I don't think he was great in that. At least from the stuff that I've seen, I obviously haven't seen most of his work, but I feel like Drax is probably his best work, and I think that has to do with the nature of the character and James Gunn's direction and the way that he uses him. Because I feel like still to this day, the character he's shined more in would be Drax. But either way, I also, I understand that those prosthetics are probably just a lot to deal with. So I can understand it, and I'm not gonna like get super triggered over the statement. All right, next story. So Dwayne Johnson fumbled the bag, one might say. So let's get into this. Basically, this Variety article is stating that Dwayne Johnson did indeed try to take control of DC. Let's see. Okay, as 2023 kicks off, DC bosses Gunn and Safran continue to sift through the rubble and will soon reveal their 3-year interconnected vision for the cinematic universe, which won't include Cavill's Superman or Wonder Woman at all. Okay, let's pause there for a second. James Gunn actually, like, clarified a few things here, so... so this tweet here kind of says, Variety reports Wonder Woman will not appear in the first 3 years of the DC universe at all. And then someone asks, at James Gunn, please debunk this one. And then James Gunn says, I hereby debunk it only because it's not true. So this specific part of this article is actually not accurate. James Gunn is saying that Wonder Woman will be a part of his first 3 years of his DC plan. Which, I mean, is cool. I imagine that, in order to really, set things straight and create a good baseline for the DC universe, I would imagine that, yes, we are going to see Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. Like, we're going to see the trilogy get established. Okay, so, and then reading on from that, but things could have gone in an alternative direction. Behind the scenes, a different group made a play for control of DC. Not long after the Warner Brothers Discovery merger closed in April, Dwayne Johnson directly pitched CEO David Zaslav on a multi-year plan for Black Adam and a Cavill-led Superman, in which the two properties would... Sorry. In which the two properties would interweave, setting up a Superman versus Black Adam showdown, sources say. Black Adam producers Haram Garcia, who is Johnson's former brother-in-law, and Beau Flynn were also part of the brain trust looking to take DC down a new path. Other sources confirmed the meeting but downplayed any discussion of Black Adam's future. So, what this article is saying is that Dwayne The Rock Johnson wasn't necessarily trying to be like the president of DC Studios like James Gunn is, but if you're gonna try and do like this big like multi-film plan like leading up to a Black Adam versus Superman movie, it's like that's obviously going to it would have been like the most important and impactful storyline in the DCEU, and like yeah, other movies would have to like fall in line with whatever that plan was. So in effect, he was trying to sort of take over the DCEU. And I don't know, some people are kind of like poo-pooing on him for it, and I mean, I think it's fair to make fun of him, right? Because I mean, his movie flopped, and that's why, or sorry, it didn't flop necessarily, but it didn't make nearly as much enough money to justify this plan. But I mean, honestly, I don't blame Dwayne The Rock Johnson for trying his hand, trying to get this up and running. I mean, do I think that Black Adam is an important enough character to like center the DCEU around? No, not really. I mean, he is a side character in a B character's like comic books, right? So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm glad that this isn't going down because I thought Black Adam was pretty bad. But I don't think that Dwayne Johnson did anything wrong here necessarily. Although actually, let's actually continue reading. Although the move took place amid a power vacuum created as former DC head Walter Hamada and Warner Brothers film chief Toby Emmerich prepared to exit, it ruffled feathers internally, sources said. Dwayne went around everyone, which didn't sit well. So actually, yeah, this article does kind of talk about how certain executives in like WB Discovery or whatever, they were kind of annoyed that Dwayne Johnson kind of went directly to David Zaslav to pitch this whole thing, and that he didn't go through the proper channels. But at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, The Rock has enough clout to do that. So I mean, I don't know, I also don't think that at the end of the day that really mattered as far as like the plan not going through, because if the movie had made like $700 million, I don't think that would even be a thing that anybody cares about. But also, and even surpassing that, at the end of the day, David Zaslav hired James Gunn. So James Gunn would have been able to make the decision and probably would have made the decision either way. So yeah, there's all of that. And then a couple of other things in this article. So this article also mentions okay, let's start this article here. As for what else Gunn and Safran have planned for DC's future, sources describe it as a broad but not blanket reset. At this point, nothing is ruled out. Given that Miller has stayed out of trouble since the beginning of mental health treatment in the summer, some executives are amenable to continuing with the actor as the world-saving speedster after The Flash bows on June 16th. Okay, let's stop there. People are freaking out about this specific line here, saying that, some executives at Warner Brothers Discovery are like open to bringing Ezra Miller back as the Flash. And yes, it is kind of distressing that anybody at Warner Brothers Discovery is like open to having Ezra Miller be back as the Flash, because that's kind of insane. And no, shouldn't do that. But I will say that ultimately that doesn't actually matter all that much, because at the end of the day, much like the thing with Dwayne The Rock Johnson's whole plan, it's James Gunn and Peter Safran's decision. like James Gunn and Peter Safran, they have full reign over DC Studios. They only answer to David Zaslav himself. So so I wouldn't be too worried about that. And I can't imagine that James Gunn would do that. Like he's not gonna. I can't imagine that he's gonna bring back Ezra Miller. He has to know that would be a PR nightmare. Like no, and I don't know, man. Just as a like, obviously this world is messed up and bad and no good, but you have to have some consequences for your actions, right? Like he assaulted people and broke into people's homes and stole things and allegedly groomed a child. No, you cannot have this guy back in. So I highly doubt that. And then as far as James Gunn did not really respond to this. So in the same tweet thread from earlier, someone asked him, "Can you discuss at all the report from Variety in regards to Ezra Miller / the notion that your slate is only 3 years worth of projects?" And James Gunn replies, "I don't know what's out there, but about Ezra, which is okay. Are you sure you don't know what's out there about Ezra? But our slate is 8 to 10 years, but we will only be announcing some of it this month." So the idea that so what this tweet actually confirms is that they have the next 8 to 10 years planned out, but they're not going to reveal all of that whenever they reveal whatever they're going to reveal this month. But yes, and this also does confirm that we're going to get some kind of news regarding their slate this January. So any day now, James. But it could be the 3 years that this Variety article says, because he says that they're only going to reveal some of it. So who knows at the end of the day what that's going to mean. And then an extra little bit here from this Variety article. Let's read from here. "And in a testament to the notion that no Hollywood relationship is ever truly severed, Batgirl directors Adil El Arbi and Bilal Falal tell Variety that they are open to working with Warner Brothers down the road." So yeah, I mean, we'll see if any of that actually comes to fruition. I mean, it honestly doesn't mean all that much to say that the directors are open to working with Warner Brothers, because really the real news would be that Warner Brothers is willing to work with them after, according to Warner Brothers, they delivered a bad movie. Although one interesting thing to note is that I believe James Gunn was one of the people that kind of like reached out to them after their movie got canceled. So, I mean, maybe James Gunn comes to them, and I don't know. I mean, I definitely like to see them do more stuff because, they directed Bad Boys for Life, which I didn't see, but was actually pretty well received, and they actually directed the first episode of Miss Marvel, as well as the last one. And I mean, I think the first episode of Miss Marvel is incredible. I think it's great. And when you look at the season finale, I think what they did was actually really impressive, only because like that show had so many just loose plot threads that it needed to wrap up. And I honestly feel like, considering what they had to work with, that season finale was about as good as it could have been. So what I'm saying is that clearly these directors are talented. And I haven't seen Batgirl, but I don't necessarily know. I don't think you necessarily want to sever that relationship completely, because they are capable of delivering good products. But either way, let's move on to the next story. Stephen Amell is set to reprise his role of Oliver Queen in The Flash's final season. So it says here that it's going to be an episode 9. I think this makes a lot of sense. I mean, The Flash and Arrow they really are the foundational CW DC shows, and yeah, I mean, I think it only makes sense for Arrow to be around for The Flash's final season, and I might even watch that episode, to be honest with you. I definitely fell off of the CW DC shows. I never did finish Arrow, and I never did finish The Flash, but assuming this episode is it's going to serve as a send-off to sort of that era of DC television. And as much, even though I fell off of it, it still does hold a very special place in my heart. So I don't know. We'll see. I probably won't watch this entire season, but I might watch that episode. Okay, so next, Hugh Jackman maybe revealed the title for Deadpool 3. So, let's see, where is the quote? Okay, here we go. Jackman continued. Oh, so he made a little Instagram video, kind of goofing around with Ryan Reynolds. They have like this like fake internet beef. That's it's pretty funny, but basically he says here in this Instagram video, now Ryan Reynolds getting a nomination in the Best Song category would make the next year of my life insufferable. It would. I mean, I have to spend a year with him shooting Wolverine and Deadpool. So basically, it's a joke video where he's trying to convince the Academy to not nominate Spirited, which is Ryan Reynolds' movie, for Best Song. And yeah, in this little video, he kind of just says that he's going to be shooting Wolverine and Deadpool, and everyone's speculating as far as whether or not that's actually like the title for the movie. I think it makes sense. I mean, I do feel like it's probably, if that is the title, I think it's probably gonna actually be Deadpool and Wolverine, only because it's technically a Deadpool movie, so it wouldn't make sense for his name not to be first on the billing or whatever. But yeah, I think it's a good name. I mean, not that the title is like super important or anything, but it's as good of a name as any. So we'll see if that actually ends up being the case. Next up, we have some interesting bits about the Last of Us TV show. So, first up here, I'll read this paragraph here. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, the show's creators Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin discussed not dragging the Last of Us series adaptation on longer than the source material, like HBO's previous blunder with George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones. We have no plans to tell any stories beyond adapting the games, Druckmann said. We won't run into the same issue as Game of Thrones, since part 2 doesn't end on a cliffhanger. First of all, kind of crazy that Neil Druckmann is like calling out Game of Thrones directly. Like, this just doesn't seem like a smart thing to do, considering you're working on an HBO show. But hey, I mean, I respect it. And yeah, I'm glad that they're not gonna like try and like add more to the story after it ends. Interesting enough. We'll actually kind of circle back to that later, because Mazin also has another interesting thing here. Mazin added that he has no interest in turning The Last of Us into a perpetual motion machine with the same plot of changing locations to survive the zombie outbreak every season. I don't have any interest in a spinning plates go on forever show, he said. Endings mean everything to me. Season 1 of the HBO series adapts the 2013 game The Last of Us storyline, while Druckmann and Mazin suggest that Season 2 will follow the 2020 sequel. So here we have kind of confirmation that, yeah, the first season is going to adapt the first game, and the second season is going to adapt the second game. And, okay, so what I think is interesting is that, and they actually mention it here later in the video, but there are some rumors that Naughty Dog may actually be working on The Last of Us Part 3. At this point, it's kind of like, sort of like rumors. It hasn't been confirmed. But I wonder if, I don't know how far along they would be in development if it is a game that they're working on, just because Naughty Dog's kind of working on a lot of stuff right now. So I don't know. And yeah, I know my camera just died. It's coming back. Yeah, I don't like. Could we potentially get a Last of Us Part 3 out before Season 3 of the show? A reasonable time for Season 3 of the show. I don't know. I mean, obviously Sony is trying to sort of create a bit more synergy between these like multimedia sort of projects. So we'll see. We'll see where this turns out. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they did Season 2 and then just waited a bit for A Last of Us Part 3 before then coming back to adapt it. So who knows? We'll see. All right. And then here's just an article here talking about how Last of Us Part 3 might be their next project. Let's see. Let's come over here. Okay. House of the Dragon showrunner reportedly left after HBO refused to promote his wife. So let's start reading here. Former House of the Dragon co-runner Michael Sapochnik left the series after HBO refused to promote his wife, a new report claims. The report came courtesy of Puck. It alleges that Sapochnik's departure from House of the Dragon was motivated by HBO's decision not to appoint the showrunner's wife, Alexis Rabin, to the producing team for season 2. Sapochnik and HBO supposedly clashed over Rabin's suitability for such a senior role, with the network arguing she lacked the necessary experience. HBO is said to have hired a mediator to resolve the dispute, however. Sapochnik nevertheless stepped down in August 2021, leaving Ryan Condal as the second season's sole showrunner. HBO is yet to publicly comment on the report, which means it should be taken with a grain of salt for now. So, interesting. I feel like if you're HBO, you probably should have just given her the producer role. I mean, like we've seen in the industry like producers credits being given when they really didn't do anything on it. Like I think Steven Spielberg is technically a producer on all of the Michael Bay Transformers movies. We all know Steven Spielberg didn't do anything on the Michael Bay Transformers movies. So, I don't know. I mean, but then it also could be the case that maybe she actually is qualified and, it wasn't just the showrunner simping for his wife. I don't know. But either way, obviously, Sapochnik would have had a really big effect on why House of the Dragon is as good as it is. So, it definitely is worrying that one of the showrunners is leaving, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see if that super negatively impacts season 2. All right, next video. Jeremy Renner saved a guy, a family member, and got really heavily injured. So, there's him in the hospital. Let's see. Oh, okay. The message came just moments ahead of a Washoe County Sheriff's Department news conference, providing an update on their investigation into the accident and sharing more specific details around the nature of Renner's accident. During the press conference, Washoe County Sheriff Darren Balam said the Hawkeye star had been run over by a snowcat weighing at least 14,330 pounds after towing his personal vehicle, driven at the time by a family member out of the snow on his personal property. Renner was attempting to get back into his personal piston bully when it ran him over at his Mount Rose Highway area home. The sheriff's office called the incident a tragic accident and confirmed they are investigating any potential mechanical failure of the snowplow. So, yeah, basically Jeremy Renner, kind of a badass, was saving his family member from like being stuck in the snow, and then of course the accident happened. So obviously my best wishes go out to Jeremy and the family, but it does seem like he's recovering, so that's good. Okay, next up, Warner Brothers Discovery CFO basically saying that they're done wilding out. So I guess we'll start reading here. We took a little bit of time to make sure that we do it properly. For some of the titles, we found new homes elsewhere. Let me actually start reading up here. Warner Brothers Discovery is entering a new era in 2023 with this 12-month period set on relaunching and building compared to 2022's restructuring, focus on layoffs and content write-offs following the April acquisition of Warner Media. Okay, sorry, continuing what I was reading before. That's why this took 6 or 7 months, but I think we've come to great solutions, and most importantly, we're done with that chapter. Weidenfeld said while speaking at CD's 2023 communications. Media and Entertainment Conference Thursday. That was very important to all of us to really use 2022 to leave the purchasing and accounting behind us, leave those initial strategy changes behind us, get it all out there in terms of our restructuring estimates, and then be able to turn the page forward. I think the team has laid a great foundation, and I'm really excited about the growth from here. So, yeah, basically, I think this is in reference to like all of the shows that were taken off HBO Max and all the decisions, like, like they made a decision to put all of like DC animated stuff on Amazon Prime instead of HBO Max. So I think it seems like they might be chilling out, and we might not be hearing about all of these like content sort of cancellations and stuff like that. And I think they might have everything set in place, and we may see HBO and Warner Media just kind of have a bit more of smooth sailing from here on out. But who knows? Maybe tomorrow we'll just wake up and all of the HBO Max library is just gone. But yeah, because obviously it's been sucking to see all of these shows just get taken off of HBO Max and just a lot of them not be accessible anymore. So, yep, we'll see what happens with that. Vin Diesel came out on Instagram, says that the trailer is launching next month. So for Fast X, yeah, I mean I'm still down for Fast and the Furious, and I'm moderately excited for the next one. I mean, the last one I liked it. I enjoyed it, but it's a franchise that's running its course. we can say, but I don't know. I'm still down with it. Next up, Warner Brothers. Apparently, they think The Flash is really good. Let's see. According to Variety, studio insiders are as enthusiastic about The Flash as they were about Christopher Nolan's hugely successful Dark Knight trilogy. The positive outlook is due to the film's focus on a multiverse and the fact that it is bringing two beloved Batman actors and their respective iterations of the Dark Knight back to the big screen, Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck. These factors have proven popular among audiences in recent years. So, it's interesting. Like, I wonder if they're mostly excited about it, not so much because of the Dark Knight trilogy, but because of what we just saw with Spider-Man No Way Home, with like Tobey and Andrew coming back. I wonder if they're kind of expecting for a similar result with Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck. So I don't know. I feel like that's like just reading that paragraph. It feels like No Way Home should excite them more than it doesn't even sound like they're necessarily saying that, oh, this movie's as good as The Dark Knight. It's more so that, oh yeah, all the multiverse stuff. The kids are raging about that stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. Either way, I remember there were reports of Batman v Superman got a standing ovation by executives, and then we saw the movie, and everybody has their opinions about it. So I wouldn't put too much stock into this. I mean, obviously it's good to hear that the studio likes it, but we'll obviously have to judge it for ourselves or not, because of course it is a movie starring Ezra Miller. So make your own decisions, I guess. Okay, next up, James Cameron is confirming that not only is Avatar 2 profitable, but that he will be making the sequels. So, let's see. Yeah, we'll start here. It looks like just with the momentum that the film has now, that it will easily pass our break even in the next few days. So it looks like I can't wiggle out of this. I'm gonna have to do these other sequels, Cameron said, with presumably some feigned reluctance given his obvious dedication and enthusiasm for this franchise. I know what I'm going to be doing the next 6 or 7 years. The point is, we're going to be okay. I'm sure that we'll have a discussion soon with the top folks at Disney about the game plan going forward for Avatar 3, which is already in the can. We've already captured and photographed the whole film, so we're in extended post-production to do all that CG magic, and then Avatar 4 and 5 are both written. We even have some of 4 in the can. We've begun a franchise at this point. We've begun a saga that can now play out over multiple films. So yeah, obviously we established that Avatar at the beginning of the show that Avatar is the highest grossing film of 2022, so it's doing fine, and that of course is now giving more assurance that Disney is going to want to fund the rest of this saga. And James Cameron is saying that he is in fact coming back to direct it. I know there's been talks of James Cameron at some point potentially handing off the reins to somebody else, but now, man, it seems like he's all in. So, I don't mind Avatar. It is what it is. It's not my favorite franchise, but I mean, yeah, I'll watch I'll watch 5 of these movies. Why not? Hopefully, they just get progressively longer over time. So, we're 24 hours for Avatar 5. But okay, next up, James Gunn is confirmed that he is writing another DC TV show. So, my day, I wrote 1/3 of an unannounced DC TV show, okayed 100 VFX shots, did reference acting for Rocket, and gave editing notes for Volume 3, and had 2 big DC Studios meetings. So, James Gunn, busy man. I mean, yeah, like we kind of forget that he's currently the president of DC Studios, but he's still working on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But yeah, so this unannounced DC TV show, I honestly have no idea what it could be. I mean, I don't think this is Peacemaker Season 2 because, I mean, that's been announced. I don't know, man. Like, my question is obviously, like, he's doing Superman, so this could be like a really important thing. Like, I don't know, maybe like a Batman HBO Max series, maybe, but I'm probably not. But this could also be just like a weird, wacky thing. Like maybe James Gunn is writing a Plastic Man HBO Max series. I mean, I don't know. So we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully, this is, or I mean, I assume this is going to be part of the announcement later this month. So we shall wait. Next up, Water is Wet. Also, Wednesday has been renewed for season 2 by Netflix. I actually haven't seen Wednesday yet. I want to get around to it. Jenna Ortega learned how to play the cello, so I gotta support. I gotta do it. I gotta watch it for the culture. So I'll get to Wednesday at some point, hopefully before season 2. Okay, and then we got some update on Gen V, which is The Boys spin-off show. So let me read this paragraph here. Prime Video is yet to release a premiere date for Gen V, its anticipated superhero college spin-off series, which will launch this year. While it's early for a renewal decision, I hear the streamer is happy with the first season, and a writing room is starting soon in anticipation of a season 2 pickup. It will be led by executive producer Michelle Fazekas, who I hear will serve as sole showrunner. So, yeah, I mean, kind of the same with the whole Flash situation. We don't necessarily need to take too much stock in the fact that Amazon likes their show, but it is good to hear that they like it and that they're more likely to greenlight a season 2 at this point. They're already getting writers together. And yeah, it looks like the first season is going to have 2 showrunners, but then the second season is going to have 1. So, we shall see how all of that works out. Ant-Man 3, we have its runtime now. So, according to Fandango, the third Ant-Man movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe will run for 2 hours and 5 minutes, which is compared to Ant-Man's 1 hour and 57 minutes, and Ant-Man and the Wasp's 1 hour and 52 minutes. Yeah, I mean, it's not like crazy longer. I mean, I would have assumed it's going to be longer since I feel like there's going to be a lot more going on with the Kang and the multiverse and all the blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not crazy. It ain't no Avatar: The Way of Water. That's for sure. Okay. Next up, it looks like the HBO Last of Us series is going to explore elements from the past because Gabriel Luna, I'll read, he's going to be playing Tommy in the show. He has a little thing here. I love the games, I love the character, Luna said in an interview with IGN. Luna will portray Tommy, the brother of Pedro Pascal's Joel Walker. I fell in love with the character very quickly, he continued, but we get to explore a lot of the moments before the inciting incident. Before everything goes wrong and the whole world goes to crap. We get to see them be a family for a little while. That was a lot of fun. I mean, those moments, just when everything was still normal, were a lot of fun and also very important to the story to establish what this little family looks like when they're not fighting for their lives. So, yeah, I wonder what that means. Like, I guess I'm thinking that we're gonna see scenes of Tommy and Joel, as well as Sarah, right? Sort of interacting as a family at some point. We're gonna get flashbacks. So that's very interesting, and it obviously gets me more interested in the show, considering these are gonna be scenes that are not adapted from the games at all, and they're just gonna be sort of fleshing out the world a bit. So I think that's cool. The actress for Marlene also says that we're gonna see, flashbacks with Marlene. I'll read this paragraph here. In an interview with CBR, Dandridge, who plays Firefly's resistance leader Marlene in both the upcoming post-apocalyptic drama television series and the game it is based on, so they actually got the actress that played Marlene in the games to also play her in the live-action thing, which is really cool. Explained that the show's format allowed for a character's story to be explored in much greater depth than the game. In many ways, things that were only hinted at in the game got full life in the HBO series because there was more space for that, and that is not exception for Marlene. So I think on the one hand, they also maybe might run the risk of, maybe over-explaining everything, because, I think one of the the techniques in writing is to not necessarily like explore everything like in depth like the actress is saying, but like when Tommy or when Joel kind of like tries to run over the guy that's like faking being injured, like that kind of thing tells you that, oh yeah, Joel has been through some stuff. He clearly like he knows about techniques like that, so clearly his life hasn't been pristine and all that. And it's like I don't know that I need all that stuff spelled out for me with like flashbacks. So we'll see how this all goes, but I don't know. I'm getting progressively more excited for the show as we get closer to it. Okay, and for the last story of the day, we have an interesting thing here. Black Noir is apparently confirmed to be coming back for season 4. To read this paragraph here, Mitchell, who plays Black Adam, he's the guy that's in the costume, I think, discussed reprising his character, who appeared to be dead at the end of season 3, in an interview with the Movie Dweeb. Initially shocked that the news about Black Noir's return had already been revealed, Mitchell finally allowed himself to talk about going forward with his member of the Seven. If we were going to play and remix the character, I think that everyone's seen a very stoic version of Black Noir, so if they were going to do something new, I think it would be fun to go in the opposite direction. So, let's read one more thing here. I think contrast is really interesting. Wherever you're dealing with characters, Mitchell elaborated, and the core of Black Noir for me was always the contrast. The notion of you have this super intense killer, right, who's menacing and scary and threatening, and then, like, he talks to cartoons. He has imaginary friends. He's really soft and sensitive. And then, kind of going on to this next thing here, Eric Kripke says something interesting. Here's what I'll say without spoiling anything, which is that particular individual who is Black Noir is dead, Kripke said in an interview. His organs are out all over the place, but when you have a completely silent, completely masked, clad hero, they're reasonably easy to recast. So that's an interesting thing there. I wonder if what they're doing here is they are basically like recasting not necessarily the actor of Black Noir, but within the context of the show, they're gonna get another guy to take up like the Black Noir mantle. And you know, most people in the world of the boys would have no idea because Black Noir doesn't speak. So yeah, that's interesting. I think that they're gonna like. I think what Eric Kripke is kind of clarifying is that they are like in the show they're getting a new Black Noir, basically, kind of like how Falcon is the new Falcon, or is the new Captain America. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. I got kind of happy for a second because I was like, oh, is Black Noir actually gonna survive? And Eric Kripke is like, no, he's not. um, but yeah, well, we'll see what comes from that. Can't wait for more of The Boys. Okay, so that was this week's episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup. Yeah, so if you have any thoughts, feel free to leave them down in the comments down below. Also, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, please. I beg of you. Por favor. And yeah, I will see you later. Goodbye.